And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Agronomist. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. We got a great show tonight. It is the last show kind of before the holiday season. We won't have a show next Monday night, so we're going to finish off the year right with a really fun topic. We're talking about technology and the future and what are some of the tools and data and information that we could have available to us as agronomists as in the years ahead. Really looking forward to this. So whether you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you can participate in tonight's program. It's easy to do. All you got to do is enter your comment or question in the comment box on those programs. Also, CCA credits, they are available. Tomorrow morning, you go to realagriculture.com/agronomist, and you'll be able to sign up for that. Also, there will be an email sign up where you can basically subscribe to our Agronomist e-newsletter. That means that you'll get notified before the show airs to remind you, as well as the next morning to say, hey, guess what? You can get your CCA credit. So, hey, let's dive into tonight's topic and bring in our guests. I promise you that this is a very talkative panel. I'm going to attempt to get a few words in here over the next 60 minutes. Let's bring in our panel. Of course, we've got Peter Johnson of RealAgriculture.com here. Hey, Pete, how are you?
I'm absolutely awesome, Shaun. It's the longest night of the year, the shortest day of the year. From here on in, it gets better, man. It gets better. So that's excellent.
Hallelujah. I'll tell you. You know what? And there's that whole big star thing happening tonight. Is it Saturn and Jupiter that align?
Yep, and we're cloudy, so I won't be able to see it. But
it's
yeah,
snowing
anyway,
like crazy here in
Lethbridge.
Yeah, so can't look at the star, so we will we'll just watch this, and it's this is a more fun topic anyway. Okay, also joining us tonight is Rob Saik. He is no stranger to the world of agronomy. Of course, founder of AgriTrend, and now CEO and founder of AgvisorPro. Rob, how are you?
I'm doing great, and to pick up on Peter, it's like 127 or 130 days to seeding, maybe less.
Yeah, if you're here in Ontario, it's less than that, Rob. By golly, we're gonna smoke you, Western boys. Trust me.
Oh, that's great. You know, it's funny how the growing season, it can be long and drawn out at times, depending on what some of the adversities we're facing. But I'll tell you what, I find the off season, the winter months, we're just you kind of finish harvest, and all of a sudden it's like, man, we're like only so many days away from we got to start all over again and do it all over. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I belong to a cohort of ex-AgriTrenders, and it's organized by Elston Solberg and Jill DeMulder. And it's called Earth, Dirt, Soil. And every day there's conversations going on the agronomy stream there. And everybody already is doing crop plans for next year. And they're hammering it. Yeah.
Yeah, all good. Okay, there's a lot of different directions that we can go here tonight when we talk about the future of agronomic tools. Rob, when I ask you kind of that, to start off here, what is something that you're kind of really excited about that agronomists in the future could have some access to that really kind of says, oh man, I wish I was in the field every day?
Well, let me put this in context with a graphic, okay? Yep. Real high-tech graphic right there. So at the bottom, we have where, and sensor technology is going to help us understand where a farmer has a problem. Recognition software may help us with what the problem is, but why it's there and how to fix it, I think, is going to be the realm of the human being for quite a while. So it's this interface between the where and the what, the why and the how. I think that is where technology can help us scale. And I think, Peter, you were talking about this, is that technology can help us scale, basically pointing us in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's 100% right. And that's where we're at today. It'd be really cool to think about where we're going to be at in the future. Give us 10 years from now, and who knows? But right now, there's lots of sensing technology. I don't care which platform you like, whether it's Climate Field View or it's granular or it's your own drone. That sensing technology, when I go to the field as an agronomist, it used to be, well, what did you do? You walked the W pattern. You tried to find the problems. But now with the sensing technology, it's okay, got to go to there. What is going on in that particular spot? And over there, maybe that's really good. I want to go have a look and see what is different about that particular spot that's making it so good. It really does. It makes me a much more efficient agronomist to use that sensing technology.
Yeah. That infield sensing technology, Shaun, there's a number of firms that are working in that direction, but you take firms like Intellinair out of the US and Hummingbird out of UK, and there's a number of them that are out there that, to Peter's point, have the ability to take you right through the growing season and actually show you what's going on in various spots of the field.
Yeah, and I think some of the reporting, like it's not just capturing that data, but it's delivering it to the farmer or the agronomist or in a way that it's easy to digest, right? I think that's really also a key in this. Don't you think, Pete?
Oh yeah. So you got to realize that I'm a Luddite, right? Like I am not very tech savvy. So if it's not user friendly and easy to use, then it's going to fail. And so the younger generation, they're much better, but it's still, the grower has to be able to use it. You have to be able to, for the grower to have the same information as the agronomist and maybe even the supplier now, as we kind of put that team together so that everybody knows what's going on. And by the way, it's also a safety issue from that perspective, because dang it, if I'm going to scout a field and they just sprayed the thing with some insecticide, I do not want to be walking in that field. And there's a whole range of things there that we can do. There's some of the sensing technology that's already at a point that it can take some of my job and make it way easier. So like plant stands with a cornfield, and now the technology is good enough, because remember, there's only 30,000 give or take corn plants in an acre. It's not like counting 1. Yeah, exactly. It's not like 1.6 million wheat plants. So it really is a little like it's a step in that direction, but it can do those plant stands. And I know that Chris Olbach, one of the agronomists here in Ontario, he's been doing some really cool work where they can look at plant to plant spacing. They can look at staging differences between those corn plants, and all of a sudden that sensing technology is really helping feed in to how well did that planter work, how good is the operator, how well is it set up, what about the environmental conditions, and that all makes the job that much easier and that much more all-encompassing, because I see the whole field. I don't just see the little bit I walk.
Yeah. Hey, there's a question here, Rob. It's from Lara. I'm gonna direct it to you. Technological advances are all fine and dandy, but we need to talk about calibration for certain climatic conditions, soil zones, chlorophyll anomalies, etc. We still need some level of ground truthing. What do you think about that?
Well, that is absolutely the case. I just wanted to mention one thing before I get on to the answer to this one, basically bouncing off of what Peter said. And it's good to get information about what's in the field, but what I really need as an agronomist is alerts, rather than even all these maps. I just need to be told which fields are in trouble and where. To the question that was just asked, there's a saying I heard a long time ago, and he who has the best algorithm wins. And going into the future, he or she who has the best algorithm wins. But an algorithm is only as good as the ground truthing that's done. I listened to somebody in the tech field a while ago, many years ago now, who said that they were going to diagnose nutrient deficiencies from the sky. And I said, how are you going to know the difference between a nitrogen, a sulfur, a zinc, a manganese, a magnesium deficiency in corn? And they looked at me and said, well, they're all chlorotic. They all do chlorosis. So how are you going to know that difference? Well, that's where the ground truthing comes in. So I think that the thing that will scale an agronomist is the ability to have an algorithm they can trust. But some algorithm developed in Nebraska may not work in Ontario. And I think these algorithms are going to have to fine-tuned and ground truth for your area, Pete.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you look at the green seeker technology, we've been working various areas on the green seeker algorithm for how many years?
Yeah.
And it's a chlorophyll sensor. That's basically what we're doing, the level of greenness. And can we use that to predict the added nitrogen we need? Well, man, we looked at the Kentucky algorithm, we looked at the Kansas algorithm, we looked at the Oklahoma algorithm. None of them have worked here in Ontario. We have yet to come up with that algorithm. And by the way, anybody can put together an algorithm. Even this Luddite can put together an algorithm. It damn well doesn't make it right.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can spell algorithm.
I know I can't. My spelling is terrible. Okay, hey, let's watch our first clip. Speaking of sensors, okay, because I think this is going to get us off to the right start here. This is a clip from last year's Agritechnica. Jay and I were over in Germany for a week, and we went. Rob, you've been there before. Pete keeps on bugging me that this is one of the things on his bucket list for sure. Pete's never been before.
Yeah, Shaun won't take me. The dirty beggar just won't take me.
That is not okay. That's not true. Fake news right there. Okay.
I don't know if Pete can handle German beer.
That's a fair comment. I can handle Irish whiskey really well. German beer, maybe not.
German beer for breakfast. Okay, let's roll with this clip. This was in the Bosch booth. It was actually the last video we filmed at last year's show. I think we did like 65 videos in 5 days. And this was the very last one we filmed. It's looking at some of Bosch's technology with sensors. We'll look at it, and then we will discuss. Here is Bosch. We always like coming to the Bosch booth because there's always the coolest new stuff and some of the innovations that are coming to agriculture. And behind us, we have some sensors that are in the field. Tell us about them.
Well, we are having sensors we are installing in the field. From there, we are measuring microclimatic conditions. We are measuring conditions above the field. All of these we bring together. We upload to the cloud where we have our algorithms. From there on, we can sort of put the development of a plant into a very, very structured way, which facilitates us to deliver actionable insights, such as recommendations that are based on development stage and the crop type.
So what kind of things are we measuring? Soil temperature, moisture? Give us some idea.
Sure, all of these. It's, of course, standard, the soil moisture, it's the soil temperature, it's some things like the relative humidity, it's the precipitation for which we're using LIDAR data, for which we are using stations that are everywhere around. All of these data we bring back together in order to work with models that give us the insights.
Also giving us an idea of crop stages.
Of course. I mean, crop development usually follows a very, very, very structured circle, and there is numerous models giving insights on that. We just make use of these models, bring them in a very, very visual way to present that to our customers.
Now, a lot of times when we talk about precision agriculture, people focus on very large farms. They focus on, people doing thousands and thousands of hectares. This focus on this project provides an application for even the smallest of farmers to participate in precision ag.
Exactly. We at the Bosch Software Innovations, we are talking about connected agriculture. That means we're bringing the IoT to agriculture. We're having tools such as the Bosch IoT Suite, which we are using for connecting all of these sensors we're seeing here, which we are then using for bringing the insights back to the cloud. And based on that, we facilitate a farmer that rather is working on small scale to be as professional and as experienced with his first hectare as if he would have around about 200 hectares of the same crop.
Yeah. Okay, Simon, when we talk about the Internet of Things and coverage, connectivity, is that at all a concern or a constraint here when you have sensors like this and trying to move it to the cloud?
A concern it is all the times, of course, but it's not a problem. It's not a constraint. We have connectivity. Also with the speed we require for sending our data, that works perfectly fine. Of course, talking about 5G, talking about next generation, speed is key if we're talking about future technologies, and it's required everywhere. But currently with our value proposition, with what we are working, it works. It is there and we are there.
I always love going to the Bosch booth. They always have the coolest stuff, and And I also like the fact that it's a non-traditional ag play, and they're bringing technology from other businesses that they have and bringing them to agriculture. I think it's awesome. So one of the things that the guy said was, we are bringing IoT to ag and really focusing as well that this isn't all just small or big farmers. This is also available for smaller farmers too. What you've added to your graph. What do you got going there?
Yes. IoT and sensor devices are feeding the information about where, and recognition and AI are going to help the farmer understand the what. But to the point that we said earlier, you heard about the Bosch technology needing to be ground truth in Ontario versus Western Canada. We've got different growing degree days, different constraints in terms of growing that crop, and those things have to be built into the technology.
Pete, what'd you think of that video?
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool. The challenge, of course, is how many sensors do we need? If I'm farming, even if I take a full section of land in Western Canada, how many sensors do I need to accurately represent what's going on in that section? Because I've got the low-lying areas of that section that have better water holding capacity. They probably have higher humidity in the canopy. The canopy is more closed, and that's going to be a different environment than it is up on the eroded knolls or the lower organic matter areas. And the sensing technology is there. It's cool. We can integrate it all. It's really neat in terms of in England, for example, they have modeled septoria in wheat to the point where when the weather conditions are right, they tell you have septoria well before, like at least 7 days before you ever see any visual symptoms. And so with that sensor technology,
that's what we need. That's the alert side of the equation. Yeah.
Well, for sure, but they can do that. But again, how many sensors do we need? How do we interpolate that data? We just have to be able to make that map, and it's not as easy as it sounds with sensors you plunk in the ground, or like we try to get that global view of what's happening in that field. That offers some challenge.
They could do this all from Silicon Valley in San Francisco. They can program the field. We know that's true.
Oh yeah, they can do everything. Yeah. There's some things they can do.
And Shaun, it's interesting to watch Bosch, because Bosch just announced a 50-50 joint venture with Xarvio. And you know that Xarvio is working on their recognition scouting program.
Yep.
And they have hundreds of thousands of users basically snapping pictures of weeds to make that recognition software better, and tying it together with the Bosch technology. It's going to be interesting to watch these two companies move forward.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I really, what I want to see next, or not, I don't want to see it next, but Shaun, you had the resistance management agronomists on, and what was the concept? The concept was, if you change the environment, then things adapt. So all of a sudden, if we have these sensors that say that chlorophyll color is pigweed, and we're always able to kill the darn pigweed because it's that chlorophyll color versus the chlorophyll color of corn, how long does it take before the pigweed adapts and looks more like corn, and we start getting into trouble with making those differentials? Anyway, that's a whole different segment, but that part really
that's a glass half empty. We haven't even cracked the visualization.
Oh, no.
But Pete's right, though. We heard about this last week. I think it was Brianne Tideman that brought up the fact that some weeds adapt to hand roguing.
Absolutely.
Like that.
The rice plants in China, because they've been hand pulling them. Now it was not brome grass, or I can't remember which weed it was, but it's adapted so it now looks exactly like rice, and visually they can't tell the difference to pull it out.
Yeah. Hey, Pete, Kyler brings up a really good point here. With the wheat prices the way they are, you'll be able to take everyone to Germany next year. Yeah,
dang it. That's like my my marketing strategy with my soybeans this year. It was, they'd been, $11. They hit $12.50. I said, we got to sell a bunch of soybeans. They hit $13. I sold the rest of them. Now they're $15 and I look like an idiot. So it just...
Oh yeah, you look like an idiot because you didn't hit the peak of the market. Yeah, you and everybody else, Pete.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like high wheat prices.
Yeah, well, who doesn't? Okay, so we have we've got sensors. We talked about that, and there's some opportunity there. There's also, like Pete identified, there is some challenges from a scalability standpoint. If I think back to 2015 at Agritechnica, there was 2 robots. We got to 2017, there were a lot more, and when you got to 2019, it was like, if you didn't have a robot, you weren't in the game. And some people kind of really showcase that by sort of like, here's our robot. And you're like, is there anything underneath the hood on that thing? Or is this just like sort of a shell? So robots were definitely a big part of the whole autonomy play. One of the robots that stood out to me was the dyno. And we're going to show that clip here right now. And there's not only there's the fact that it's self-propelled or it's self-propelled and autonomously going through the field and removing weeds mechanically, if I remember right. The other part of this that interests me is the scanning that happens. We're talking about the notification. Hey, you have this in the field, and that kind of opportunity. It's things that you necessarily maybe wouldn't see if you're rolling through the field in a sprayer at 15 miles an hour. So let's watch the dyno robot, and then we will, of course, discuss here on The Agronomist. Here's the dyno. Okay, so the robot behind us it really possibly is what the future of weed removal could look like, but at the same time, you also have some in the field. So this is just not a concept. This is commercially available. So tell us about this robot.
So Dino is made for vegetables. The idea is working in mechanical weeding. We want to offer one solution for farmers who doesn't want to use herbicides. Mechanical weeding is a huge task. They spend a lot of time weeding, so we offer one autonomous solution for them.
Okay, so we have 4 shanks in this machine, and they're also, so you're basically doing inter-row cultivation, but there also is a shank in front of the back cultivator that allows us to do interplant as well. So we're not only weeding in the rows, but we're also weeding in between the plants. How does the machine know where the plants are and are not?
So in front of the machine you have one camera. The machine is seeing the lettuce, and we are using new software deep learning method in order to really see where are the lettuce and move knives opening and closing after each lettuce, so we can manage the weeding all around the crops.
How tall how tall could the crop be for it to work in? Is there how tall would the plant have to be before you couldn't use the machine anymore?
We can manage really early stages of the crop. Maybe your first weeding, I don't know, 1 week before the planting.
Okay. And how fast does the machine run through the field?
With the active tools, you are working maybe 2 hectares in a day, in 8 hours. With simple tools, you can manage to do 4 hectares in 8 hours.
Okay, so 4 hectares in 8 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And you do have 2 that are being used in the Canadian market now, you said?
Actually, there is one Dino near Montreal. In the end of a team from the one federal research team, they are working with the robots in order, to challenge the technology, and they want to add new features. They use the robot as a carrier for sensors.
And you had said that one of your main objectives was to get these robots in the hands of farmers as quickly as possible to really test it and get that feedback.
We are going quick because we are going with the farmers. Our strategy is to quickly give the robot to the farmer because we need their feedback from the field.
and it's electric, of course.
Yes.
Talk about the battery. How long does the battery last?
Oh, in a day you can work 8 hours, but batteries are quickly increasing their capacities. So next year we will be able to sell batteries for a work length maybe 10 or 12 hours. It is okay.
Okay. And can you take the battery out and put a different one in, or do you have to charge the machine itself?
Actually, you take back the machine to the farm to
charge it.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, everybody's watching. They're saying, "Oh, that sounds really cool, Paul. This is pretty neat." You know, in my row crop operation, maybe I would think about one of these. What's the price?
Actually, in Europe, the price is an average of 100,000 euros.
Okay, and then that's for the four shank unit, but you also have a smaller unit as well.
Yeah.
And that's a 2-shank unit with the robot body in the middle,
Yes.
and a shank on each side. How much is that?
The little one is made for little farms, vegetables farms. It is an average cost of 25,000 euros, and you have already one farmer using it in New Brunswick, in Canada.
Oh, okay, New Brunswick, Canada. We're early adopters over there. Okay, is there any opportunity and plans maybe to, as you perfect the technology, to go even wider?
Actually, our main job is working with vegetables and vineyards farmers, but maybe in a few time we will begin to work for, wheat, corn, and bigger farms.
Man, watching those videos, all I can think about is the exhaustion of those 5 days at that show. Also,
Look what you have to look forward to, Pete.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. I won't be doing any videos. Not what I do.
And the microphone, how good that mic is, because it is so noisy. People just packed around you. There's nothing like Agritechnica. So we got 4 hectares in 8 hours, 100,000 euro. Pete, how many are you buying?
Yeah, the problem with it is at this stage is it's way out of range for any field crop operator. In hort crops, there's enough value there. Maybe they can make it work, but it's too slow and it's too costly. And when robotics first hit, I sort of thought, oh gosh, what's the future of herbicides? Because they're under the gun from a public perception perspective. Are we even going to have herbicides in the future? But I've really backed away from that, and man, I don't know that we're ever going to have enough robots. Are we going to come up with these swarms that go all across Western Canada and weed all the canola and wheat acres versus a 160-foot wide boom that can roll along at 12 mile an hour, and for that, what's that? A $500,000 investment, I can cover 1,000 acres or 1,500 acres a day versus the investment in some of these robotics. So robotics are absolutely important, and they're going to take over in a lot of areas, but I don't think we're there yet. We really have to get to economies of scale or something before it's going to be a big player in field crop agriculture.
Rob, what do you think?
Well, I think that's the reason for DOT. I served 18 months as CEO of DOT Robotics, and then now it's been acquired by Raven. And to use your numbers, Pete, there's the Pattison Connect sprayer, 120-foot sprayer, all the bells and whistles, and that robot DOT travels at 6 to 8 miles an hour. And it's diesel, so you don't have to recharge the batteries. There's so much about swarm technology, Shaun, that he was talking about that makes sense. But Pete makes a point. Economically, that dog don't hunt. We just can't get over the acres fast enough on low value, broad acre agriculture. We need something that does, like Zenith just said here. Jenith just said, like 1,000 acres a day, and that's really, DOT's not at 1,000 acres a day, but it's scalable. You can get a lot of acres done with DOT, hundreds of acres done with DOT in a day. And that's where we need to. I just want to move on and just mention as well, to me, one of the exciting things about having autonomous vehicles pass over the land, back to your point earlier, Pete, is how many sensors can we put on that to gain information at a real granular level. Maybe the robot should be nothing more than a sensor driving across the land, pulling in information.
So I agree. I said this on RealAg Radio today when I was kind of promoting the fact we were doing this episode tonight. I agree with you. I almost look at the robot as like a scanner, and I compared it to a dairy situation. So on a robotic milker at a dairy, of course, that robot is milking, but there's this whole other side of it that is honestly an exceptional benefit, and that is the data that you're getting on all of the cows in that operation that allow you to make improvements in the actual dairy. And I think
picking up mastitis before it ever shows up.
Exactly. And that's how when I see a robot like that, and you talk about it being like a scanner and having all these sensors, that's bringing in more information than you're ever getting when you're busting through the field at 15 miles an hour on that sprayer, marking like, hey, weed patch and things like that. I think, if you look at it from a drone perspective, it can also serve some of those purposes too of doing that same level of scanning.
Yeah, as soon as we can get the human being detached from the drone so the drone can do catch and release beyond line of sight, then I think we have some scaling happening with drones.
Yeah.
Some good scaling, yeah.
Okay. Pete, any more follow-up on that?
Yeah, and I think the DOT project is a really cool first step towards the larger scale part of autonomous vehicles. But the autonomous vehicle is one part of robotics, and what the dyno unit is doing is another part of robotics, and we have to evolve them to the point where they can fit into these large scale operations and do a good job. And yeah, I totally agree, man. Every time you go over the field, you should be sensing it. Now that once we get sensors that will give us the information we need, once we have them, and they're, by the way, they're field truthed, because there's lots of sensors, but they got to be field truthed. Then every time you go over the field, you should be gaining that information and feeding that into a system that helps you make better decisions.
Hey Peter, you got a DOT in Ontario now. Chuck Barishish with Haggerty Creek bought
Absolutely.
a DOT.
Yeah.
Running, and I always think about using DOT or a technology like that to do between row cultivation in organic or even conventional crops, scuffling to get rid of the weeds. I think there might be something there.
Yeah, well, and hey, listen, that's the dyno. It's got those the rotating prongs, the wheels. Basically, that's all it's doing is it's got the fingers, and it's pulling, it's just sort of ruffling the weeds up and trying to. But they got to be small. they got to be small.
A lot of the problem happens too is that you get some drift on your GPS, and in row crop you can't afford to have the robot crushing the corn rows. That doesn't work. But I saw some stuff with Raven. It was stereoscopic vision cameras. So the cameras were looking at the rows, and another camera was looking at the furrow, and they were steering a Case IH sprayer 15 miles an hour, totally with camera vision, not GPS.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's lots of electronic eye kind of technology that is being used in organics for weed control right now, right? So they're using those electric eyes to flick out those weeds, the Bosch Stomper. There's lots of different ways to do
Laser
that.
beams. Laser beam.
Yeah. Yeah. So
whatever works.
So Pete, do you feel that, like, when you look at those last two clips, like, we talk a lot about how the farmer has a big job to kind of analyze a lot of this data, but I think more probably falls on the agronomist even to as their responsibility to provide consult on some of this. Pete, I really think that we need some more data scientists, agronomists out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And people hate when I say this, but if you're getting into agriculture, to be a tractor jockey, because I loved driving tractor when I was growing up, and this testosterone tillage, baby, let the black smoke pour. It just we love that stuff. But man, now you got to save it for the tractor pulls, because long term, we aren't going to need many tractor jockeys. And I know there's a lot of farmers out there saying, shut the heck up, Johnson, because we can't get enough good tractor operators right now. And I understand that. But no, in the future, I think the agronomist and the top farmers are going to be much more data people, where they're getting data in and they're going to have enough knowledge that's kind of like, wait a minute, that data doesn't make sense. So we better send somebody out to make sure that sensor's sending us good information. And if it is good information, there's something really weird going on. But yeah, this data thing is just blowing up, and we need people in the data management system, because there's so much data that if you don't have...
I call them systems integrators, and colleges like Olds College is going to start kicking out systems integrators, or they're calling them techronomists. And we need Ridgetown College, we need Guelph, we need U of S, we need Assiniboia Community College kicking out these young people that are well versed in data management and systems integration, because it's killing us right now that we can't utilize the technology we got today on the farm, let alone what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
You just told me I was obsolete. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Well, there's always a future for you in radio, Pete. There's always a future in radio.
You got a face for radio, Pete.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. We're going to now take a look at the Tractor of the Future, which was a concept that was displayed at the John Deere booth at last year's Agritechnica. And I don't know about you guys, but Pete, when I see this kind of cab, I want to be the tractor driver, because it not just driver. I think it's more of an operator. It is pretty impressive stuff. So let's take a look at the future of the tractor cab with John Deere.
Yeah, so what we have here is the command cab vision from John Deere, and the idea is as you move forward in the future, it will be more about managing automation and autonomy and less about direct control. So you won't need to be steering every moment. You'll be worried about how is the job getting done.
Yeah, we're looking at some images of this cab right now, and what's really, really interesting is that it feels more and more... We always talked about how the tractor cab was more like an airliner cockpit.
Yep.
It actually feels like it now.
It's exactly right. You'll see a lot of inspiration here from the glass cockpit that they talk about in aviation, where, again, it's more about monitoring. The pilot is not directly flying the whole time. They're making sure you're getting to your destination on time and safely. Here, let's just start a job and show you how it works. The idea is today in John Deere Operations Center, you can start to plan work and get that out to your machine. In the future, we imagine it being self-aware, that the job will just come down to you. And for you to get started, all you have to do is press go. And you'll see with technologies like our AutoTrack and AutoTrack turn automation, it's going to be automatically getting into the headland. And in this case, we're planting. You'll see it as turn the corner, drop the planter, and start planting.
I feel like I'm playing Farmer Simulator.
It's a little bit like that, right? When you think about you're managing from more of the bird's eye view, you can see here we've got row by row detail, but I can also see the other fields out in front of me. I still have details like what I get on SeedStar Monitor today and on Connect Mobile, but I'm keeping tabs on my entire operation.
Okay, so a lot of these functions are currently already in the tractor. You're basically just reorganizing it to showcase it in a much more visual, pleasing, consumable manner.
One of the big aspects is that this tractor is connected and online all of the time. So right now you're starting to see all that data move off machines to the John Deere Operations Center. Now we're seeing it all come back together into one command center.
What about the bandwidth required for this data to go? Because obviously this thing is data heavy.
Absolutely.
How do we make sure we have enough bandwidth to make it all happen in some of the remote areas where people are farming across Canada or the U.S.?
Still one of the challenges we have to watch, and that's why we look forward to technologies like 5G that allow that data to stream more freely in and out of the cab. But some of the things like sending basic commands, getting plans, are already happening today, even with today's connectivity levels.
Okay, big question for you. Can we hook up Netflix and this is like an IMAX theater.
One of the top questions we've been receiving already is, hey, I'm sitting back, I'm comfortable, what am I going to be doing if this thing's running itself? And you know what? It's all software driven, so who knows?
Okay, so we're in the future area here for John Deere. How far are we from this becoming some sort of a reality?
It's a great question, and one of the things we're looking at is how do we help bridge towards these further levels of automation and autonomy. Again, many of these tools are already available today, so you can start to see pieces of this rolling out now and in the future, and as we bring them together based on customer needs, we'll be ready with these types of solutions.
I steer with the joystick? Oh, you know, what's funny? What's funny is that what you don't see in the video. So I showed you the last video we shot. That was actually the first one we shot on day one of preview days. And during the middle of the interview, people kept on opening the door to get into the cab. And like, we have got a camera in there and a light, and people aren't like, it doesn't bother anybody because they want to see that cab. It was pretty spectacular. Very, very cool stuff. No steering wheel, interface that comes out of the floor, comes out of the screen. And it's as close as you'll get to an airplane for sure. Rob, what do you think?
Okay. So we're going to take some of our brightest people and we're going to lock them inside of a glass cage for what, 12, 14 hours a day? If you put a dog in that tractor and locked him in there for 14 hours a day, you'd be sued for cruelty to animals. And yet there are people in there, they don't even steer anymore. How are they supposed to keep themselves sane? Yeah. Like, that's where automation is going to come in, because I just don't know how you can take people and put them in a cab like that, staring at screens. You know how zoomed out we are right now after a day of Zoom meetings? Can you imagine the fatigue level?
One of the questions I didn't ask that a farmer had watched that video, and it was like, that is a great question. I wish I would have asked it. That was, what about at night? There's a lot, like, what does that interface look like at night? And I did not ask that. I wish I would have. Pete?
Yeah. But it's all going to dim down. So by the way, Shaun, I noticed that you stopped that video right where you took it off automatic steering and you started steering, and immediately you veered way off course. And it's no dang wonder you don't farm anymore, Shaun. You can't even drive straight, for crying out loud.
Okay, that is a true story. I am. Yes, I'm caught. I surrender.
So just to come back to what Rob said.
Kyler's got a question here about a rural area not supporting the bandwidth. And, in some areas, that's absolutely the case. And, you're looking to the likes of, Bell or SaskTel or TELUS to solve this problem. I don't know that there's enough incentive unless we get the federal government to backfill the infrastructure to rural communities. However, when I built AgvisorPro, connectivity is an issue for us, but I didn't build it based on today's bandwidth. I built it on tomorrow's. And if TELUS or SaskTel or Bell doesn't solve it, or Rogers, then I'm sure that Elon Musk or the likes of a Jeff Bezos will. So sooner or later, we're going to have broadband in rural area. Now, I don't know about 5G, because that is a real stretch to get that kind of speed in the middle of a field in Cadillac, Saskatchewan.
Pete, go ahead, Pete.
No, I was just so you mentioned though about sitting in that cab and how that's basically cruel and unusual punishment. Have you watched kids and how long they can sit in front of a stinking TV screen and play stupid video games? Like, my grandson can sit there for hours. And actually, if you get into that glass cab with multiple displays, one of the most beautiful things, one of the most beautiful things out of auto steer. When we got auto steer, we do all our plot work with auto steer. So now, instead of having to look forward and drive the silly tractor, I can push the button and I'm turned around looking at what the drill is doing behind me. I'm seeing what's going on. I can see if poor Shane riding the drill is trying to throw things at me because we're out of seed or whatever the heck is going on. Like, I really think that whether you're sitting in the tractor cab or whether that information's being beamed back to you back in your office with 12 different computer screens. But I love this glass cab kind of concept where you're writing on the wall the way they do in all the sci-fi movies and all that kind of. I love that shit, man. I am such a sci-fi nerd.
Oh, that's good.
We're gonna have to change his name to Paranormal Pete.
Yeah, maybe not quite that far, Rob.
That is right. Well, and what's interesting is right now there's a lot of companies out there in this area of prescription or trying to assist in here's what we need to do to maximize our results. I'm going to show a clip right now. It is one example of sort of us moving towards reading, diagnosing, and then basically prescribing on the go. And we'll talk a little bit more about it because I think this is really an area that plays very, very much into what agronomists may be doing more in the future. So let's have a look at the clip. It is with Soil Reader. Here we go. By the way, we're also breaking the record for the most clips ever in an agronomist episode at 4. I'm impressed. Here we go. So, numerous people said to me, you need to go talk to Eric at Soil Reader because he has something that is extremely cool, and a few people use the word revolutionary. So what is the Soil Reader product?
Well, the Soil Reader product brings basically the laboratory into the field, right into the soil, in real-time, on-the-go style. So, we deliver the same results as you normally would get from a soil laboratory. We have about 6,000 data points per acre, and we deliver that in an agronomic platform, so the crop consultants or the farmers can overlay it with their yield data or historical field data and, produce better prescriptions.
Okay, so the tractor's going through the field. We're direct seeding.
That's
so
right.
We're going through the field. We're direct seeding.
Yep.
It's on a coulter, a disc.
Yep.
It's going through. How deep is that disc going down?
Okay, the diameter of the disc is can vary. So if you want to go a foot deep, we make a larger diameter coulter, and if you want to go 6 inches, as you see here, then we're around 27 inches of diameter of coulter.
And so how is it taking that reading? Like, that's the part that probably a lot of people they got to get their head around it.
You know what? Yesterday there was a analytical company. They own laboratories worldwide. They use near-infrared spectroscopy to analyze their soil in the lab. So we're not doing anything on the science side that we're bending the arm of the science, so to speak, in order to work. So what the accomplishment was we are bringing light into the soil. And that was the hurdle or the obstacle because up till now, that was the challenge, how to bring that light and capture the reflection into the soil. Most spectrometers are the size of a shoebox, so how are you going to work with that to get it into the soil? So that is the modifications that we have made in order to use a mini spectrometer, a very powerful mini spectrometer, and get the window in the ground and keep the spectrometer in the hub.
Okay, so is there circumstances where you were talking to me earlier about this, that you had to design a system that was durable and rugged enough to be able to survive some of the conditions that we're going through. Right. Is that really the constraint, is being able to, or what are the constraints of this product?
Yeah, so you have to get that light into the ground, and it has to be in contact with the soil in a consistent fashion. Okay, so you don't want to prepare the soil, you don't want to disturb the soil, and that's what we have been successful and proven with. We were in Langenberg, at Terry Eberhard's farm. And let me tell you, if you want to see rocks, that's the place to go. And we asked Terry, what's your speeding rate, or
Your seeding speed.
Seeding speed. And he said 5 miles an hour. I said, you drive 5 miles an hour. And that's what he did. And, we
Cool stuff. Also, well, the Soil Reader actually developed in Manitoba as well. It didn't come out in that video. So, Okay, evaluation on the go. Mr. Saik, what do you think of that?
Spectroscopy has merit. The ability to calibrate that spectroscopy to wet chemistry so that it can give you readings in real time is a big, big hurdle. I hope they can do it. And then on top of it all, a company like Clean Seed has got the ability to vary 6 different things per shank. Who the hell can program that? So that's going to come down to algorithms again. So you're going to have algorithms that can take the reading from the spectroscopy and instantaneously convert that into variable rate RX files that can vary the NPK, S micros, and seed in real time as you go across the field. Fantastic if we can make it happen, but it is a big set of challenges to get there. You can imagine it, but getting there is going to be a real task.
Yeah. Pete, question here from Lara. Soil reader looks amazing, but it can't account for soil microbial activity, which would affect potential nutrients availability later on in the growing season.
Yeah, and Lara just loves soil microbiology. She just is so focused in on that. It's kind of fun to watch. And Lara, you're 100% right, by the way. There's some things that even as Rob mentioned, simple things like sand, silt, and clay, because depending on your soil type, you get wildly different responses to things like starter placed phosphorus. And that's something that we haven't got our brain totally around. We don't have even that level of information, let alone the microbial activity that Lara's talking about. Because if we have lots of VAM there, mycorrhiza there that can access phosphorus for the plant throughout the soil better than areas that don't. There's tons of things from a biological perspective that we simply don't have as good a handle on as we should have, but we got to start somewhere. And yeah, there's getting to be more and more on-the-go sensors. By the way, one of the very first on-the-go sensors was the Soil Doctor, which Middlesex Soil and Crop, way back in 1991, we evaluated the Soil Doctor, and it was supposed to tell you what nitrogen rate to apply to a standing corn crop when you went through at side dress time. And it's sort of like Lara says, it looked amazing. It looked too good to be true. And guess what? It was too good to be true. It absolutely did not work. Didn't tell you anything at all about nitrogen. So we have the sensors. We got to make sure that, as Rob said, we can calibrate them back, that they actually give us valid data. And the soil reader, they said, was an R squared of 0.8. Boy, if that's true, that's pretty darn good. So maybe on some nutrients we can get there, but we have a ways to go yet for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Shaun, let me tell you a little story about spectroscopy. I was working with Stream Technologies out of Edmonton, and we went to Ryer malting. We got 750 samples of barley with known protein levels, and we slid them through the spectroscopy machine 3 times each. So we ended up with 2,200 samples. Did you know we had an over 80% accuracy just using light in seconds to do a test, to do a protein test? But when it came to visual to distinguishment between Copeland and Metcalf barley, we were 97% accurate with spectroscopy. And this was in seconds. This was a test that took seconds to do. So this technology is, when you transmit this technology to soil or to plant technology, Peter, it'll just keep evolving. It's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things that the soil reader, he said, you can't prepare the soil because it's got to have good contact with the soil. So it works better in a no-till system than it does in a conventional till system. Well, no-till doesn't work for everybody, even though I think it should. So there's
Wait a minute. Whoa. Are you advising tillage?
No, I'm not advising tillage. Albert Tenuta better not be listening. I am not advising tillage. Gosh.
Okay, guys. Okay, so we're at Ridgetown College. We're at Olds. We're recruiting high school students to enter the field of agronomy. What are we telling them? Why is this such a cool occupation going forward as it applies to the future of tech and the kind of what the environment will look like? What are we telling them? And Saik's bringing back out his graph here.
Yeah.
He's making me test my producer stuff on the go here. Okay, so what does he need, Rob?
Well, because it gets more exciting as time goes on, because a lot of the grunt work that happens by diagnosing the where and the what, eventually we'll have something called augmented intelligence, where the technology augments the human being, and that way we can focus in on the why and the how to fix it. And I think, Peter, if we spent most of our days just thinking about why is the problem there and how to fix it, I think those are pretty exciting days. Pete, if I gave you enough background information of the field, the climate, the microclimate, the microbial activity in the soil, the nutritional status, the types of species that were growing in the field, you don't need to be in the fields to help that farmer in a lot of cases.
No, I don't need to be, but I darn well want to be, Rob. I want you to know. That's what I love. No,
I know you want to, but here what I'm saying is that for a young agronomist coming out, a lot of the work that was really painful will be easier. That information will be easier to get over time.
Well, not only easier to get over time, but also integrating that knowledge and coming up with solutions. That to me is what it's all about. And so now these people that love technology, they love the kind of that knowledge and trying to apply that, they can take the technology that they don't realize is involved in agriculture at all. And it's kind of like, no, agriculture is basically like being a space scientist or a brain surgeon, because that's the level of technology that we're actually bringing to the field now. And if you can convince them of that, show them that, I think a whole lot more people all of a sudden get pretty excited about agriculture, because that's just cool stuff, man.
Absolutely.
I think, Shaun, the exciting part is to be able to connect the young talent, the bright, ambitious, imaginative talent, to the silver hairs like Pete and myself, because we have this legacy. We have this legacy knowledge of what's going on in the industry. Like, we can connect the dots pretty quick, but having the ability to work with young people, I think, just makes our career that much more exciting. And it's there is a big future in ag tech and ag tech integration in Canada and around the world. It's big.
Yeah, and I think there was I don't know how many years ago, but there was this small little period where there was a lot of discussion about all this tech was going to get rid of the agronomist. We have swung back, and rightfully so, I'll say, to no. That's not the case. We need some people in the field, and I think that's. I'm glad to see that's happened.
Yeah, well, just think about this. If you had 30 fields you were managing as agronomist, and now you've cut them up into 5 zones, you're now managing 150 fields. That creates a lot of work for the agronomist. Go ahead, Pete. Sorry about it.
Well, no, it's fine. I think the other analogy or the other example of that is the instant teller was going to do away with the bank teller. But in actual fact, there's no less bank tellers today than there was before the instant teller. It's just that they're doing a different role, and they're providing better service to the clients when the client comes in with a need. And so it's the same thing with the agronomists. Yeah, so our role is going to evolve, and I'm the dinosaur that wants to walk through the field still, because I like doing that and look at the plants. But man, bringing all that information together and being smart enough to work with the technology and understand the physiology of the plant and put those things together and come up with a better recommendation or a better solution for the grower. Oh man, it sends chills down my spine. It's just like, that is Mecca, baby. That is paradise.
Absolutely. Hey guys, this has been a lot of fun. An hour goes by way too fast. I really do appreciate so much your time here tonight, and two great experts in the area of agronomy and ag tech. You guys are both paying attention to the leading edge so much, and I really do appreciate it. Rob, Merry Christmas to you.
Thanks a lot, Shaun. Peter, Merry Christmas to you in Ontario, and stay safe this Christmas season. We hope to see you at trade shows and field tours again real soon, buddy.
Let's hope.
Yep, you as well, Rob. Everybody, stay positive, test negative.
That sounds like a t-shirt. I like that. Absolutely. Okay, everybody, I want to remind you that you can find the archive of The Agronomist at realagriculture.com/agronomist. That's also where tomorrow morning you sign up for your CCA credits if you watch tonight's show. Also, make sure you subscribe to the Agronomist newsletter. It's right there at that site. So, hey, everybody, thanks so much for getting real and getting connected with The Agronomist, and we'll see you after the new year. Cheers, everybody. Merry Christmas.